Having upcoming exams is one of the most stressful experiences that we can face as a student. In this video, we'll start going through 10 tips for stress relief when we have upcoming exams. Let's go. My name is Dr. Park. I'm a psychologist for youth, and here at Through the Waters, we nurture youth mental health. If you're watching this video, I'm guessing you might be stressed about your upcoming exams, so I'm just gonna cut to the chase and dive right into these tips for you. I'm also gonna break these 10 tips into a part 1 and a part 2 video so they're easily digestible, and this is part 1. As with any topic, everything I'm sharing with you needs to be adapted to suit your own situation, so remember to personalize all of this based on what works best for you. You do you. So tip number 1 is to make a study plan. If you use a planner or a calendar, put each exam or assignment due date in there. Then based on the sequence that you see of what's due when, actually block off chunks of time in your calendar to study for each specific exam or to work on each specific assignment. Prioritize the most challenging classes, give them the most time, and schedule them sooner rather than later. People have the best success with keeping a plan when they can say the who, what, where, when, and how. This is called an implementation plan. So in other words, who will you study with? For many of us, that will just be ourselves. What will you study? Where will you study? When will you study? And how will you study? If you're blocking off time in your planner or calendar to study for specific classes, you already have the what and the when. Now try to get specific about whether you'll study alone or with someone else, where you'll study, and how. That last piece of how you will study brings us to our next tips. Tip number 2 is to take breaks. A common recommendation is to set a timer so that you study for about 25 to 30 minutes, then take a 5-minute break. This helps us avoid getting too tense or suffering from burnout. If you want some added help with this, try using an app for the Pomodoro technique. That's one specific method for structuring your time and taking breaks. The next tip also relates to how we study. Tip number 3 is to break your studying into small, manageable pieces that you can control. For example, I cannot really control whether my grade ends up being an A for a paper that I'm writing, but I can have a small goal of writing an outline for my paper. Then my next goal might be expanding the outline with a few sentences and so on. When it comes to studying for exams, cramming is not the way to go for multiple reasons, so revisit the material you're studying in small study sessions that you spread out over time. Your learning will actually be better and your stress will also be lower. Tip number 4 is to use study techniques that are active rather than passive because they'll be more effective. Examples of passive learning would be like rereading your textbook or your notes. Active learning requires you to come up with responses from your own brain. So examples of active learning would be study techniques like drilling yourself with flashcards, quizzing yourself or having someone else quiz you, or teaching the material to an innocent, unsuspecting bystander in your life. Roommates and friends make excellent victims for this. Tip number 5 is to create a calm study space that is free of distractions. I have a whole video where I talk about how to do that, so here's a link for that video. Okay, so we just covered 5 tips for stress relief when you have upcoming exams. If you have a stress relief tip you'd like to share with our community, share that in the comments below so that we can learn from each other. In the next video, we'll be continuing this conversation with 5 more tips for exam stress relief. In the description below, you'll find some helpful links like a free list of coping tools that you can download. You can also sign up for our signature anxiety program called Peace to the People, where we take a deep dive into leveling up your tools for dealing with anxiety. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe.